welcome. In today's video, we're looking at how to hack or how to alter our very own Minerva exclusive sewing pattern, the Amelia Dress. I'm Izzy at Minerva, and I'm going to talk you through step by step how to alter this pattern here, which is our Amelia Dress sewing pattern, so that it looks like this. The changes that we're going to be doing are that we are going to be creating beautiful gathered sleeves. So we're going to look at altering the cuff on the sleeve slightly. And then we're also going to be adding a lot more volume to the skirt pattern piece. We're going to be using the slash and spread method to do that. So we've got two really great little alterations to show you here. And you can obviously just pick and choose which alterations you want to do, but I'll be showing you those two in the video today. So as you follow along today, you're going to need the Amelia sewing dress pattern, which we'll tag in the video, in the comments below the video. And you're also going to need your fabric of choice and your pattern drafting tools. So those are listed next to me here. So do grab those and then you can follow along today. As we start, I will have cut out my pattern size, which is a size G. However, you need to cut out your pattern pieces in accordance with the size that you require. And don't forget that with all of our Minerva sewing patterns on our YouTube channel, you can find a number of supporting videos to help you sew the pattern. So if you're not sure of the fabric, we have a fabric selection video. It shows you some fantastic fabrics that you can purchase on our website, which will look beautiful in this pattern. We also have a fit alteration video which talks you through all the common changes you might come across that you may need in order to fit the Amelia, to fit your body absolutely beautifully. And then as well as the detailed instruction booklet that we have here with all the step-by-step guides to how to actually sew the pattern with pictures and graphics, we do have a sew along as well, which you can watch on our YouTube channel for free. And that sew along shows you step by step how to sew the original pattern. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to sew the steps which have altered and are different to the ones shown in the original instruction booklet. Okay, let's crack on and start looking at how to adapt our pattern pieces. We're going to start with the sleeve pattern piece. Okay, so pattern piece C is right here. I've cut it out to my size, which is a size G. Obviously, you cut out yours depending on what size that you want. Now, fundamentally, what we're wanting to do here is we're wanting to insert or create a casing so that the elastic can fit into the hem of the sleeve. So my elastic is 1 centimetre thick. You may want slightly narrower elastic, but this is the elastic that we've picked for the demo. So we know that it's 1 centimetre. Now our hem allowance is 1.5 centimetres, and we want to just lengthen the hem slightly so that it can accommodate the 1 centimetre casing that we want. So basically what we need to do is just to lengthen the pattern piece by 1.5 centimetres in order that we can create this casing. Because basically we want to be able to hem it in its usual way, like that and like that. But then we also need to be able to turn it up nice and neatly so we can fit the elastic inside the casing. Okay, so grab a little piece of paper and pop it underneath your sleeve pattern piece. And then very simply just extend out the hem by 1.5 centimetres, and this is going to create your casing effectively and give you the volume you need, but it's not going to affect the length of your sleeve overall, so it's still going to fit you just really nicely just above your elbow. Just extend those side seams of the sleeve down in a nice straight line, continuing the side seam line, and then just fill in the curve of the sleeve. And that's all there is to the sleeve piece. Now, obviously, you could shorten your sleeve a little bit more and create more of a kind of a dramatic poof if you wanted to, and bring the elastic up higher up your arm. Or you could also extend the sleeve, and I've shown you how to do that in another video, where you just extend it longer, so it's like 3/4 length or even full length, and then put some elastic down the bottom of the cuff. So really, it is basically up to you how you want to alter that. But I've just shown you how to lengthen it by the amount you need to add the casing in, just as a nice little demo. Okay, and let's now move on to the skirt pattern pieces. So we are going to make a few little alterations to the skirt piece. Let's dive straight on in. To start off with, I want you just to dash out your 1.5 centimetre seam allowance along the top up here. And then just do the same for the top of the side seam like this, just so you can see where the stitch line will be when you sew the garment together. Line your ruler up with the approximate waist level notch at this point and make sure it's parallel with the centre front line here. Measure the distance from the centre front, which is here, to your stitch line and tap that into your calculator. Then divide it by 3. Whatever distance you've got, just mark this into 3 equal segments. So for me, it's 7.3. Just square all the way down to the hemline for that first line. For the second line, I want you to pop your ruler down by the hem down here and just mark a point that's halfway between the line you drew and the hem, which for me is 20 centimetres. And then using a long ruler, mark that line up with the line that you just drew up here and just dash that line out. Now the reason why we've done that is just to make sure that we're evenly distributing the spread of the volume around the whole skirt, so it's reasonably even. This is obviously cut on the fold, so the gap between that spread and the next one will be double that width, and then that's just really nicely giving us a reasonably even distribution. Okay. The next thing we're going to do now is then we're going to cut the pattern piece out and spread to give us volume. So let's do that together. Cut from the hem all the way up to the seam allowance up at the top. And when you've cut up to the waistband, then just do a little slit, a little cut, leaving a tiny pivot point along that stitch line there. Okay, now that you've cut out that pattern piece, we now need to decide how voluminous we want the skirt to be. I'm going to be really mindful and not to increase it more than the width of my fabric. So at the bottom down here, I'm cutting this pattern piece on the fold. So if my fabric is 1.5 meters or 150 centimeters wide, when it's folded over, it will be 75 centimeters wide. So I don't want my hem to extend more than 75 centimeters. And I probably only want it to be a maximum of 70 really. Okay, so to start off with, just move the outer one with the side seam, the complete length that you want it to be, the extent you want to extend it, and just pop a piece of masking tape underneath there. And then what we want to do is rotate this one round. It's pivoting up at the top up here, that stitch line, and just rotate it round so it's evenly distributed between the two. So the amount of volume we've added here and at the hem down here is exactly the same. Wonderful. And basically, that is the alteration that we need to make to this pattern piece. So all I'm going to do now is just put a couple of pieces of paper underneath here just to make it into a nice, solid, complete pattern piece. Okay, and once you've added a little bit of extra paper, then just join up the hemline so you've got a nice smooth hem using a soft curve so that it's all nice and even. Also really helpful to add the length that you've increased the hem by, so it's +9 centimeters there and another +9 centimeters here, and that is going to affect us when we look at the back skirt pattern piece to see how much we want to increase that by, because we want to increase it by the same amount. Okay, so our next pattern piece we're going to look at is the skirt pattern piece, which is pattern piece G. Just repeat the process as we did for the front, which is just to mark off your 1.5 centimeter seam allowance at the top, just above the waist, top of the pattern piece, and down the side seam as well. Okay, so grab your ruler now that you've marked those seam allowance lines and tap into your calculator the distance from here to here. For me, it's 21. And then measure the distance of that dart, which is 2 centimeters at that point, and -2 centimeters from the overall amount. Then divide it by 3. Whatever distance you've got there, mark that distance away from the seam allowance of the centre back. And then we want to add 2 centimeters for our dart size and mark that distance offset from the first one. What that basically does is it ensures the distance we've got there and there is the same as the distance there once that dart is closed up. Draw a line which is straight down from the top of that waist, from the top of the pattern piece, all the way down for this first line here. And it should run parallel with the centre back line. Measure the distance or the length of the hem between this point and there and find an approximate halfway point and mark it along the hem. Grab your ruler, join up those 2 points and draw a nice straight line going all the way down from the top down to the hem. And now we're just going to do exactly as we did for the front by cutting up those lines, doing the slash and spread method and adding the same amount of 9 centimetres in between each opening that we create. Okay, just like that, so 9 centimetres here, 9 centimetres here, fill in the gap with a piece of paper and then sort out that hem. And there we have it, our back skirt pattern piece. We've added 9 centimetres down here to that gap there and another 9 centimetres down there to that gap there. We're still going to sew the dart as per the instructions because that's going to give us just a nice little bit of shaping just below the waist at that point there. So it just nips in and then flares out from there. Okay, what we're going to do now that we've done all the changes to the pattern pieces, we are going to start to sew up the pattern. As mentioned before, I'm only going to demo any steps that have altered and changed from the original pattern instructions. So for us, I'm just going to be demoing how to insert the elastic into the sleeves and how to create that casing, how to sew that, because everything else is exactly the same as per the instructions. We're still sewing the side seams and the darts and everything else exactly in the same way. So let's take a look at how we're going to sew this up together and you can follow along with me. Okay, so here is our beautiful dress. I've sewn all the steps so far from step 1 all the way through to step 17. We've got our sleeves fully inserted in, we've sewn everything together, we've got our invisible zip installed and our facing is looking amazing. Let's move on now to look at how we do the casing next. So we're going to start off by following the basic instructions here. To start off with, turn and press the hem up by 7 millimeters in total. Then turn it up again by 1.5 centimeters and press in place. Once you've pressed that up by 1.5 centimeters, just pop a little double pin around the back, on the back of the sleeve, so it's not as obvious as the front, and then put another set of double pins about 3 or 4 centimeters, 1 or 2 inches away from that first set of double pins. Okay, now what we're going to do is, working from the back, we're then going to sew from one set of double pins all the way around the perimeter of the sleeve to the other set of double pins, leaving a gap here so that we can thread our elastic through in a few minutes. What we want to do is to sew really close to the folded edge here, offsetting by about 2 millimeters so that we're leaving a nice channel that is a generous 1 to 1.3 centimeters wide, in order that our elastic is then going to fit inside. So let's do that on one sleeve and then repeat for the other sleeve. Excellent, so just like that, so we've still got a little gap here. Next, take your elastic and wrap it around just above your elbow, and just wrap it so it's kind of firm but not too tight, so it's comfortable for you. Overlap the elastic by 1.5 centimeters and then cut at that point. You'll want to cut 2 of these, 1 for each arm. Take a safety pin and thread it through one end of the elastic. Take another safety pin and just pop it through the other end, but this time just attach it onto the inside of the casing so that it doesn't get pulled through as we take the elastic through the casing. Okay, making sure the elastic is nice and flat. We'll remove those pins, and then we will just push that safety pin all the way through, and this just threads the elastic all the way through the casing. Excellent. Once you reach the other side, you want to pull both lengths of elastic out so you've got the raw ends nicely there. Ensure the elastic is sitting flat all the way around the casing, and then we're basically just going to sew those 2 together. So overlap them by 1.5 centimeters and just zigzag stitch them together like that. Okay, just like that. Now next, just gently push the elastic back into the casing, and then we're just going to stitch up the gap that we've got here. Okay, and there is one sleeve completely done. That's the back, and there's the front. That looks really cute. Okay, just repeat for the other sleeve, and then let's go and see what it looks like. Okay, so here is our gorgeous Amelia dress. We've sewn it all up. It's giving us a lot of flair on the skirt. I'm absolutely loving that. So it's got a lot more swish and sway, a little bit more drama. You can totally imagine if you extended it as well, that it would give you a lot of like evening glam as well. And then I just absolutely love these elasticated sleeves. The elasticated cuffs are just bringing in that volume up on the sleeve and just creating a little bit more drama on the top half. So what an absolutely fun little alteration and a couple of nice little hacks you can do there for the Amelia dress pattern. I do hope you really enjoyed that as you've been following along today, and it's really inspired you at home as well to take out your drafting ruler and your pencil and give it a go. And there's nothing quite like making a pattern completely unique to you, to your body shape and to your design aspirations. So thank you for joining me today. I've been Izzy at Minerva. Do please leave your comments below and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would love to hear from the Minerva Zone community.